The universe runs on math. That is what we always told ourselves. We, meaning the Zaragi Combine. We survived and we prospered while adhering to this saying. It became our motto, an expression of our way of life. I'd call it our god, if the data suggested one's existence. In addition to our lies, we also shaped our war after this truth. 20 ships would win against 10 ships. This made sense to us, and we were proven right when we showed up in superior numbers and our enemies surrendered without a battle. This happened time and time again, but sometimes it didn't. Then we informed our enemies about the size of the fleet we didn't bring to battle, about the population of our species, and the percentage of soldiers within it. They surrendered. This made sense to us. Then we met the humans. We showed up with 12 ships, one of which I was serving on. They had 6 ships. We held them and told them to surrender. They didn't. They lost 5 ships, we lost 8. The humans fled and we were confused. Why didn't they surrender? We asked ourselves, and determined that we must have had too little ships to convince them of our superiority. Their ships must have just been stronger than ours, so we decided to bring 2 of our ships for every human ship when we would next fight against them. This came about some weeks later when we attacked a colony of theirs. 50 of their ships against 100 of ours. By this time, I, myself, commanded one of those 100. I had little say in the decision-making. After all, there were commanders who had served longer, and thus had more experience. Anyway, it would have made little difference. We got beaten, and quite badly at that. At first, we just neared the enemy while sending a diplomatic message. The humans seemed to understand, as they pulled their ships out of the system, surrendering it to us. They had surrendered. This made sense to us. After all, they surely had calculated that their ships, while superior, were too heavily outnumbered. We were correct in this conclusion. I'm still sure of it today, 30 Terran years after the fact. However, while we outnumbered them, they had outsmarted us. Unlike us and every species we had previously encountered, the humans possess something they call tactics. When we were close to the planet, the human fleet re-entered the system behind us and started to attack our fleet. Their numbers hadn't changed. There were still 50 of their ships, but still, they destroyed 80 of ours, only losing 7 themselves. This was baffling to us. They had been outnumbered and they had recognized this fact. But still, they fought, and still they won. The event that truly shook our greatest military minds, however, came a year after this. Having proven myself over the human colony world through the act of successfully anticipating our loss and retreating before the other low-ranking commanders, all senior commanders had died rather soon, as the more valuable ships had been placed in the rear. It was decided that I would lead my own mission. As acting commander of the Zaragi Combine's 11th Fleet, I took Kerost 4, a temperate world with a human population of about 50 million, concentrated around 2 big cities. Estimating a standard 0.5% military population, I sent 500,000 troops, double the projected strength of the enemy military presence on the planet. 6 Terran months later, we had sustained 60% casualties. The humans had lost around 150,000 soldiers. What boggled my mind was that the estimated amount of enemy combatants on the planet counted in the lower millions. This might seem like a simple miscalculation, but indeed it wasn't. When we first attacked, they had indeed only been 250,000 soldiers, with little machinery to speak of, compared to our tanks and walkers. A month later, we had sustained 50,000 dead or wounded, and the humans had doubled their forces. 2 months after that, we had lost 120,000 warriors, and the humans fielded anywhere from 1 to 1.5 million soldiers. When we analysed the data, we found that over half of our troops had been killed in ambushes by a smaller number of attackers than we had defenders. After a week-long bombing campaign, and another 500,000 of our dead didn't break the human spirit, we sued for peace, and shortly thereafter formed an alliance. I was chosen to negotiate the peace, as I had more experience with the humans than most. It also helped that I had been the first commander, whose calculations had shown that the humans could hold Kerost 4. Later, I led the first Siraki force into battle alongside the humans. It was a victory, of course. Many more followed, and through them all I came to a new universal truth. The universe runs on math, but when it comes to humans, you better count them tenfold. At War with the Humans, Define All Odds, by High Admiral Collex Wyron, Chief Commander of the Siraki Combine.